Hey, testing. We're gonna go live soon. This is a test. Hey. Hey, test, test. Testing, testing. Hey. Hey, everybody, we're going to start in a few minutes. Testing.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are at live right now at McLeod Ale Brewing Company in Van Nuys, California. So thank you for everybody that's here in person right now. Thank you to everyone who is watching on the live stream right now, and welcome to the first ever Cruise for a Cause speaker panel series, Finance for Freelancers. This is our first one, and let me just introduce what Cruise for a Cause is for a second. My name is Steve Kaufman. I'm here with Max Rosenfeld and Steb Schinnerer, who are behind the cameras over here, and we are the founders of Cruise for a Cause. We have been around for about 7 years now, and what we do as volunteers, we make short films for nonprofits all around the country at little to no cost to them. It's all volunteers helping us make these. We ourselves are volunteers, and we currently have about 5 or 6 projects in the works. For anybody out there who has thought about how to use their skills to help others, go to our page at cruiseforacause.org and sign up. Please go to our social media on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and follow us there so you can see the projects we have coming up. When you sign up with us, you are not committed to anything. You'll get an email occasionally with a project that we have, and if it speaks to you and you want to volunteer on it, you can respond to it. If you don't want to do it, you just ignore it and move on to the next one. So with that said, tonight we have a really awesome program for you here. I want to introduce you to a great friend of mine who I met many years ago as undergrads at UCLA. He is a certified financial planner. He has an MBA as well as his undergraduate degree from UCLA, and he has his own wealth management company called Silicon Beach Wealth. And he is also my financial advisor. Please welcome Jose Vitella.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today. What Steve didn't tell you is that when we were in college, we were in a band together with 200 other band members, right? Yeah? Yeah, the UCLA marching band is what we participated in. So anyway, it's wonderful to be here. I'd love to, look, I've got a slide deck here. My goal is to provide you with information around how to make smart financial decisions. And so the takeaways for today, I hope, are number one, what should I be doing with my money? What are the different options, and how do I take action? Okay, those should be the takeaways. This is a very intimate environment, so I would love for this to become more about a question and answer session. Whatever questions you have, this is an opportunity. This, I do this for a living. I've been doing this for 20 years. This is your opportunity to ask me whatever you want, whatever doubts you have, whatever concerns you have, whatever issues you have, good experiences, bad experiences. I'd love to hear them because we've got an opportunity for the next 30 minutes or so to get some answers. Okay. So with that said, I've got a slide deck. So let me get started. But if you have any questions along the way, or if there are any questions on the live stream, I'm happy to take them. Sound good? Cool. All right. Sound good. Okay. So step number one, let's just talk about investing for the long run and why it's important, and how easy it can actually be. So the first thing I want to do is just share with you that time is on your side. And I'm looking around the crowd here, and no one is particularly old. So this is great. Look, here's the point. If you invest your money, and you invest it for several years, the money that you put to work will multiply. Specifically, money tends to double. Money that's invested tends to double every 10 years. Okay, so what does this show? This shows that if you invest $6,000 today, okay, and you hold it for 40 years, it's a long time, okay, you invest it for 40 years, that same $6,000, not $6,000 a year, that same $6,000 becomes $12,000, becomes $24,000, becomes $48,000, becomes $96,000 with that same $6,000. Okay, so that's the first topic. Money compounds. Okay. Now, the other important note is you can start small. So whether you have a lot of money invested right now, whether you're sitting on a lot of cash, or you just want to get started, even $200 a month over a very long period of time can amount to these figures. Okay, but the point is doing it consistently. $200 per month for long stretches of time can amount to a lot of money, and obviously if you add $400, the numbers will be greater, and so on. Okay. So the other thing to note is we encourage you to get started. The sooner the better. Okay? So this example here shows somebody starting at age 25. Okay. And she puts $5,000 a year for 10 years and then stops. Okay, no more investing for her. But she lets that money grow. Okay, second investor doesn't do anything for 10 years, then begins to save $5,000, but he does it for 30 years. In the end, the person who started early actually has more money, even though they stopped saving after 10 years. And that's because, like I said, money tends to compound. So my message to you today, point number one, takeaway is just get started. Get started now. The sooner the better. Okay? So that's item number one. Any questions on this? Okay. Okay, so let's talk just practically speaking. Okay, so you're interested in investing. You may already be investing. What I did was, I just want to tell you, there are, without overcomplicating it, here are a few great places to consider opening an account. There's Vanguard, there's Schwab, Fidelity. You might have heard of these. Betterment is another wonderful company because Betterment has tools that will allow you to automate your investing. But this is a good place to start. Okay, so step number one, how to get started. You go to one of these companies. Okay. From there, yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Sure. The question is, they have their own company and they do personal investing for your family. Yeah. And the question is, can you invest the business assets? Can you invest as a business? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you can absolutely invest on behalf of the company, and there really is no difference other than it depends on the ownership of the business. So if you have partners, for example, you're investing with others, and that might open it up to other. You might have access to other investment opportunities because you're investing collectively. Well, it'll depend. Does it depend? So the follow-up question is, does it impact your taxes and your profit and loss? And the short answer is yes, absolutely, because now the business is making money or not making money. It could be disadvantageous to invest on behalf of your business, depending on the structure of your business. Like if you have a certain type of corporation, you'll pay more taxes for the on the gains. So yeah, generally speaking, it probably makes more sense to take the money out of the company and invest personally. Why? Because as a business, you probably want to reduce the liability of the business. So God forbid somebody sued your business and there are a lot of assets because you've been investing in the business. Well, now all of those assets might be at risk. Whereas if you took the money out of the business and the business got sued, there's less liability there. Yeah. Okay. So there are different types of accounts that you can invest within. Okay, so first I want to make a distinction between bank accounts. What's the purpose of bank accounts? Checking savings accounts? Basically, the purpose is to build reserves, to pay your operating expenses, to cover your day-to-day expenses. Okay, that's the purpose of these bank accounts. That's not really what we're talking about today. What I'm talking about is brokerage accounts, investment accounts. So for example, there are brokerage accounts, there are IRAs, and there are 401ks. And we're going to get into other types of accounts that apply to freelancers. But at a bare minimum, if you're thinking about getting started with investing, the three on the right-hand side here, a brokerage account, a Roth IRA, and some kind of a 401k or a SEP IRA, those are the three I would recommend. Okay, those are the three to consider. And we'll get into what you can do with within those accounts. Okay, so I got a question about IRAs, and we got a question about the differences between solo 401ks and SEP IRAs. So let's just talk about the difference here. So first of all, let's just talk about there are different types of IRAs. These are individual retirement accounts designed for long-term investing. In theory, you can't really access the money until you're at least 59 and a half. Okay, so they're structured to be investment accounts for long-term investing. With a traditional IRA, you get a tax break at the beginning. Okay, and so that's wonderful because you pay less tax up front. And then you accumulate money, and the money theoretically grows over time, but then you get taxed at the end. Okay, so you get tax breaks initially, and then you pay taxes at the end. That's an IRA, a traditional IRA. With the Roth IRA, you pay the taxes today on your money, but then once the money's in the Roth IRA, all the future gains can be accessed tax-free. So everything becomes tax-free. So those are some of the differences between the IRA and the Roth IRA. One, you get the tax benefit up front. The other one, you get the tax benefit later. Okay. Yeah, question. Okay. The obvious benefit to the IRA is that you get the tax break right away. So if you're generating income and you're paying taxes and you would like to pay less taxes today, then the regular IRA makes more sense. If taxes today are not a huge consideration, or better yet, you have other opportunities for tax reductions, then the Roth IRA makes sense. The other difference is there are limitations as to who can actually qualify for Roth IRAs. If you're making above a certain amount of income, you can't put money directly into a Roth IRA, and that amount of income is around 160 grand a year. So if you're making 160 grand a year, the traditional Roth is not an option for you. The Roth is not an option for you. There are ways to get around that though, but that's going to get complicated. Yeah. Yeah. So then you can keep your Roth, but you just can't add to it. Yeah. So the Roth stays in place. You can continue to invest the money that's inside that Roth. You just may not be able to add new money into it. Well, anytime you put money into a Roth IRA, there is a report that goes to the IRS. And so if they match up the fact that you made a Roth contribution in a year where your income was at a certain level, then they'll alert you, and you'll be forced to take that money out. Okay, so what's the most amount of money you can put in an IRA? Either one. So you can put $7,000 a year into an IRA. That's the max. Unless you're 50, in which case there's a catch-up. So you can add a little more. Okay, so there's $7,000. Guys, I'm here to tell you that's not going to move the needle. Just $7,000 a year. I mean, do that if that's what you can do. I think everyone should aim to do a lot more than that. And that's where, as freelancers, you have other options. Okay, so if you're a freelancer, that means you're not participating in someone else's 401k plan. And even if you had a different job and you did participate in their 401k plan, you can still, through your own business, create your own plan. And you can create your own solo 401k or a SEP IRA. So the benefit to the SEP IRA is, you can see that number up there. You can deposit as much as $66,000 a year into the SEP. And that's all. Every dollar that you put into the SEP, you get a tax write-off today. So there's a tax write-off for every penny that goes into that SEP IRA. Okay, the 401k, very similar limit, $66,000. Okay, the big difference is that it's a little bit easier to get to that $66,000 within that solo 401k because of how the contributions are calculated. So if you were in a position to put as much money as possible into one of these, okay, technically you can get away with, so with a SEP IRA, if you wanted to maximum fund that, you have to report taxable income of about 300 grand in order to get to that maximum $66,000. But with a solo 401k, you can get to the 66,000 with only about $200,000 of reportable income. So that's it. So if your goal was, hey, I want to maximum fund this sucker so I could get the biggest tax deduction I can and put money away for the future, it's a little bit easier to do it through the solo 401k. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Well, you could actually. Yeah, you don't have to have a loan out. So, in other words, a corporation. Yeah, you don't have to have a corporation to contribute to a SEP or a solo 401k for that matter. Yeah. So as freelancers, some of you might be sole proprietors, i.e., you have no corporation, and that's fine. That's fine. You can still participate in these. If you're an S corp or you have some other kind of entity, you can also participate in these. Yeah. Question. Yeah, so for starters, one of the benefits to having any kind of an entity is not necessarily tax related, and it has more to do with just legal liability. Your risk is generally limited, or your risk exposure is limited to the assets inside of that entity. Whereas if you're just operating solo, then your entire personal financial situation is technically at risk. Okay. So that's more of a question for an attorney, because there are more of interest, and that is, yeah. The liability, you'll probably want to talk to an attorney about that. Yeah, a CPA, certified public accountant, will be an expert on tax matters, but they'll be informed about liability as well. But yeah, the attorney will address the legal side of it. From a tax point of view, a benefit to having an entity is your ability to define your income, your earned income. That's one of the key benefits. The fact that you could determine, and there are guidelines for this, how much of a wage to pay yourself. And that will determine not just your federal income taxes and your state income taxes, but it'll also determine how much Social Security tax you'll pay. So that FICA concept, yeah, that's where you'll have more discretion. And that could yield some significant savings for you. Not only that, but look, whether you're a sole proprietor or you're running business through an entity, there are tax deductions that are available for you. You'll want to talk to your accountant about that, though, okay? Because I think they generally are of the opinion that you could be a bit more tax efficient overall when you have an entity. So at what level of income? Well, keep in mind that there's a cost associated with having an entity, and that cost in California is you got to pay like $800 or $900 a year to the state just for having the entity. And number two, that entity generally has to file its own tax return. So there's the added accounting expense. So if you're going to pay, I don't know, a couple $1,000 to maintain that entity, you need to ensure that you're getting at least that much in savings. So are you generating 6 figures of revenue? If so, that entity probably makes sense. Okay, super. Okay. All right, so we've talked about the types of accounts. Yeah. Sure. On the solo for to be clear, so the question is with respect to which of these plans can you sponsor as a business owner if you have employees? Got it. Okay, so to be clear, what I'm talking about here is a solo 401k. A solo 401k is designed for businesses without employees. Not allowed to do a solo 401k. That doesn't apply. Yeah, if it's part time and they work and you pay them a wage. You have a Pilates studio or whatever studio and they're part-timers and they don't work a certain number of hours, there's an hour limit. Yeah, exactly. 40 hours total for the year, you mean? Or no, it would be a lot less than that. Yeah. It's once you work on average about 10 hours a week, you become eligible. So in that case, again, this is for solopreneurs, freelancers, individuals who don't have employees. If you have employees, you can create a regular 401k plan, and they can participate or not. The employees can participate or not. That's separate. Okay. All right, super. Okay, so you've gone to one of these companies that will sponsor, or you can activate these accounts. You've selected your accounts. You've determined which of the retirement accounts you're going to go with. Okay. And now, just a note about investing. Okay, or a couple notes about investing. Okay, first of all, you'll have a plethora of investment options. Okay, I'm just going to highlight a few here, and this shows the historical rates of return. So look, I'm going to highlight the second one from the top, which is U.S. large cap stocks. These are the largest companies, most valuable companies in America, often described as the S&P 500. So these are the 500 most valuable companies, including companies like Apple and Alphabet and Costco and Microsoft, Nvidia, etc. Okay. Historically, they've had the highest returns. Okay. Down at the bottom is cash. Cash on average doesn't return much. Right now, it's amazing. It's you can get a pretty decent return on your cash, but long term that's not the case. Okay. So when investing for the long term, you typically want to think about investing in the types of assets that have the highest return. And that's where that S&P 500, so large blue chip companies, that makes the most sense. But it's not a smooth ride, okay? When investing, there are a lot of ups and downs, okay? And I want to highlight a couple notes here. Number one, as you can see here, over time, the value goes up. Or the values have gone up. Okay, so from the beginning here, this chart shows 1966. From the beginning until last year, clearly there's an upward trajectory. The challenge is it's a roller coaster ride, okay? And there are some periods here that are pretty gnarly, They can be nasty. For example, look at that period between 2006 and 2010. If you were invested in that period in the S&P 500, these are the top, most valuable, most profitable companies in America. From peak to bottom, they've declined in value by more than 50%. So if you had 100 grand at the beginning, by the end of that little period there, you were down to $43,000. So it's a big decline, okay? But inevitably, markets tend to rebound because the American economy is resilient and has been resilient for the longest time. And so one of the keys to success is not just investing regularly and investing early and selecting the right combination of accounts, but you have to have the wherewithal to ignore the day-to-day in order to achieve the long-term results, which is the goal is growth. And over time, American businesses grow, as you can see here. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is the S&P 500 synonymous with like an ETF? So an ETF is a type of fund. It's a type of investment, okay? And those ETFs can mirror a particular index. They can mirror an international index. They can mirror the Japanese market. They can mirror a bond index. Or they can mirror the S&P 500 index. And the largest, most popular, and arguably some of the most successful ETFs mirror the S&P 500 index. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so because ETFs they're funds, and the underlying holdings can be just about any type of asset. One of the more popular emerging assets today is crypto or crypto type securities. But yeah, there's a lot of regulation around that, and a lot of the government still hasn't fully embraced it, and therefore, yeah, there's just been a lot of there's some conflict there. So they're not readily available, in other words. Yeah. Okay. There was a question earlier. Say that you're super pumped and motivated about, hey, I'm going to put my money to work. I've got the accounts. I've decided I'm going to go with the S&P 500, and I'm going to do it. But maybe right now is not a great time because the election breeds uncertainty, and we don't know who's going to win, and it's contested, or the last time it was just a total disaster. Well, I'm here to tell you that long term, the choice of president doesn't actually matter too much. As you can see, the market has just grown regardless of who's in office. And all I can tell you is historically there have been Democrats and Republicans, and the market has risen. So what will happen this time around? I have no idea. I have no crystal ball. I don't know who's going to win. Nobody knows. Will there be uncertainty? Will there be chaos? Maybe, possibly. But remember that if you're investing for the long term, you're investing for the next 20 years, the next 40 years. So remember this, and that is whether the market is up or down, or whether there's chaos or not, you're investing in the American economy. You're buying businesses long term. Businesses that should survive whatever short-term chaos might exist. Okay. Okay, got it. So we've talked about why to invest, what types of accounts, where to go to invest. Okay. The ups and downs of the markets. Now I want to spend a few minutes just talking about where some traps. Okay, because you will be pitched over time. You've already been pitched, I'm sure, on different types of investments. You will be sold a lot of investment ideas over time, okay? And the more successful you are with your business or with investing and saving money, the more you're going to get pitched various ideas. So I'm here to talk about a couple in particular. Oh, one of them is missing here. Oh, there we go. I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of folks get pitched life insurance products as investments. Okay. Let's just be very clear. There is a role. If you have a family, if you have dependents, you may need life insurance. If you have dependents, for example, young children, you may need life insurance. If your parents depend on you, you may need life insurance. Otherwise, you probably do not need life insurance. Okay, and yet you have a lot of insurance professionals who will sell you on this concept of investing in index universal life policies, variable universal life policies, whole life insurance policies, where if you commit to $200 a month or $1,000 a month, you not only get this investment, but you also get life insurance in case you die, and there are tax benefits, and you get a rate of return, and it's amazing. It's all things for all people. Okay, let's just talk about how insurance commissions are paid. Okay, so if you've ever wondered how insurance professionals make money, here's how they make money. Okay, if your annual insurance premium on your life insurance policy that you're sold is $10,000 a year, the insurance commission, the second that you sign that contract, the insurance agent is going to collect $10,000. That's their fee. They're going to pocket that. Okay, well, that money doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of your returns. And in addition to that, they're going to get paid over 1% per year of all the money that's in that policy. So there's an incentive for you to be aware of here. Okay. That's like car insurance. You pay a certain premium, and then you get coverage, and if, God forbid, you die prematurely, then it pays out. But if not, then that money's gone, and that's fine. It's much cheaper to get term life insurance. So my suggestion here is just separate the insurance from the investing. Don't get caught up. Be careful. I shouldn't say don't do anything. You can do whatever you want. But don't get caught up with life insurance being this wonderful investment product. Okay. Private equity investments. Okay. So the S&P 500 here. Okay. This is owning the top five shares of the top 500 companies in America. It's pretty lucrative if you stay with it, okay? But it can also be kind of boring because you're just owning an ETF. You're owning this fund, and it's not like Shark Tank, where you go in and you buy into some business and so on. Look, private equity funds, you may get pitched these over time, and the advantage to private equity vehicles is you can access different types of assets, like private businesses, and that could be neat, but the layers and layers of fees associated with these will impact your rate of return. So just ask. If you get pitched a private equity product, you'll want to ask, well, what are the layers of fees? That's it. Okay, that's my message to you about private equity. Just ask about the fees. Okay, GameStop and meme stocks. Again, you're going to be tempted to say, well, I think Rivian is this wonderful company, and maybe I should buy Rivian stock. Or, GameStop is going through the roof. It's going, it went up 100%. Maybe I should buy into that. If you want to gamble, go to a casino. Okay? If you want to gamble with stocks, again, you could do whatever you want. But open up a separate account maybe and gamble away. Buy individual companies. But if you want to make money long term, stick to stick to the basics, which is that the S&P 500 type investment. Okay. All right. The last thing I'll share with you here is, if you're sitting on cash, you don't know what to do with it, the last thing you ought to do is just leave it in cash. You got to put it to work ultimately, because the value of the US dollar over time is gonna lose value. Okay? And so 100 years ago, back in the 1900s, early 1900s, $1 could buy you a ticket to Yankee Stadium. And today it's $100 to go to Yankee Stadium. Okay? So just don't sit on cash forever. And that's my point. So with that said, happy to take any questions that you guys might have. All right.
My question for you is, when I was 25 years old, I had just graduated college. I was in my first few jobs as a freelancer, and one thing I forgot to mention at the top of this introduction was that one of the reasons why we wanted to do this event tonight was because as freelancers, no one's putting money into our retirement accounts. If you're working for a big corporation, they're putting money into a 401k for you, and it's growing over time. You don't really have to do a whole lot. As freelancers, we're jumping from job to job, solutions editors, camera operators, audio people. No one's doing anything for us. We have to do it ourselves. And so what we wanted to do tonight is to talk about why it's important to be proactive with your money. Don't expect anybody to do it for you. So when I was 25 years old, my dad said to me, you need to start putting money into an IRA. And I said, well, how do I do that? And he said, go to your bank. It was $5,000 cap at the time. So I put $5,000 into a U.S. bank account. It was a Roth IRA.
Okay.
And I did that for several years until, fortunately, I was no longer allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA, and I switched to a traditional IRA. But then what is the point where somebody is doing that and they, I guess you're saying the money is in an account at the bank, but it's not actually accruing very much interest, right? It's just in whatever they're offering an interest right there. You have a few options, right? CDs versus whatever the going rate is at the time. Can you talk about that and why it's important sooner than later to try to get it into more lucrative investment opportunities?
Yeah, certainly. And by the way, if anyone wants this slide deck, I can email it to you. So just send me an email and you can have it. Back in the day, 20 years ago, there were actually minimums to get into certain types of investments. Okay, so when you started, you may not have qualified to even get into a mutual fund or some kind of investment that was designed to grow. Back in the day, there were minimums of even $25,000 to get in to buy into the stock market. Okay, those minimums are gone, luckily. Okay, and so now you can buy into the S&P 500 index or some kind of a growth investment with $1. And so those options, those options are all available at Fidelity and Schwab and everywhere else. Yeah.
We'll talk about when you started as my financial advisor.
Sure.
As an example, you said to me you want to be conservative, moderate, or progressive, knowing that you're not going to touch this money for another hopefully 40 years, 30 or 40 years, whatever it is, whatever point you get into the stock market. And so you talk about those kind of conversations that you have with your clients, depending on their current financial situation, but their expected financial situations down the road.
Yeah, certainly. So I think that the first thing to note is that your age isn't the only factor that determines your investment risk. Okay, the risk you're willing to take. It's not about how old you are or how young you are. In order to determine the appropriate type of quote unquote risk exposure, in other words, how much you should have in investments that grow and that go up and down, it's more about your time horizon. So if you don't need, if you know you have money that's designed to grow for the next 20 years, or you're not going to touch it for a long period of time. And a long period of time is as little as, maybe 5 to 10 years. If you have that kind of time horizon or longer, you should be invested for growth. As long as the investments are of high quality and the S&P 500 are of high quality, then that money should be invested for growth. Now, should you invest your cash reserves, the money, all of the money in your bank account in the market, as lucrative as it might be? No, absolutely not. So you should identify, well, do you have short-term goals? For example, are you planning to fund a business? Are you going to buy real estate in the next 6 months? Are you going to take a year or 2 years off of work? If you have a short-term time horizon, then you should have money in bank accounts, right? Because they're stable and you'll get some interest. But money for the long term should be invested in an asset that is designed to grow. Yeah. Like me personally, as in my role as an advisor. Oh yeah, no, we deal with clients with short-term goals and long-term goals. And in fact, if you run a business, for example, you gotta have some degree of corporate reserves. Well, those corporate reserves should be managed because you could earn a better return than just leaving it in the bank account. An example I'll give you is there's a company called Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's conglomerate. They have $180 billion of cash in reserve right now. It's actually not in cash though. They're buying U.S. treasuries and they're making 5.5% or more, whereas the bank, they're just every day, every week, they're buying these treasuries. So, okay. Gotcha. Got it. Yeah, so the question I would ask is, the money in the corporate account, do you have a specific goal, or do you have a specific budget or a specific purpose for that money on behalf of the business? And if the answer is yes, because our business is going to purchase equipment, or we're going to launch a new product, but not for a year or whatever, well, then that money it perhaps should stay in the business, but it should be managed within the business. Whereas if you have surplus reserves, which is a good problem, but if you have surplus reserves, then maybe some of that money should be kicked out of the company. But before you transfer the money, we got to make sure that there are no tax implications of moving money out. Yeah. There's a question here. Yeah. So,
Can you repeat that question aloud just so we get the people home here, which is, as freelancers, times are tough, at times we're not always working month to month, and so outside of just investing in the stock market, what are other options in terms of growing our portfolio?
yeah, got it. Okay. So a couple things. Number one, I think it's crucial. One key ingredient for long-term investment success is being able to have money invested and to leave the money invested during good times and bad, and especially during the tough times, because it's during the tough times that the economy is usually down, jobs are low, cash flow is low. If you have all of your money invested in the equity market, you don't want to invade that portfolio during tough times. You don't want to sell low. That's the absolute worst thing to do. Okay? Remember, it's long-term investment success is about buying low and not selling at the worst time. Okay, so step number one is don't sell at the worst time. Okay, for you to have that kind of discipline and to not invade the long-term money, you need to have sufficient reserves. And so that's it. That's my key message for you is, as a freelancer, when income is so uncertain, especially freelancers in the entertainment business in 2023 and 24, you got to have ample reserves. And so how much of a reserve should you have? Well, that's going to depend on a lot of factors: household income, expenses. Consider a year's worth of reserves. I know, which is a huge, it's a huge number, but it needs to be conservative enough so that your long-term investment portfolio is basically out of sight, out of mind.
I think, and as a freelancer, someone who kind of understands a little bit more, because I live this, I think the idea of like large portfolio and investments is kind of scary, like abstract, far off.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now, the thinking is like, let's say you're 25 years old and you're a production assistant and you're only making $200 a day, maybe you're making $1,000 a week, and so over the course of the year, maybe you're making $50,000 a year. So the thought of how do I put $7,000 into an IRA right now is a very hard thing to consider. So we're talking about $7,000, but maybe the answer is this year you're only putting in 1,000,
Yeah.
2,000, and
Yeah.
maybe it's that. The other thing is that you typically don't put it in until you do your taxes. So you do your taxes around April, maybe you get it extended to September, October, and around that time you fund your IRA. So maybe you need to be stowing it away monthly until you get to the number that you're comfortable with. And when you do your taxes, you have your tax sheet, you say, here's the amount of money I'm planning to put away in my IRA to pay off my investment.
Yeah.
So the question I have is within that.
Yeah.
Let's say, all right, I only have $3,000 put in the IRA this year.
Sure.
And it's not really money that a financial planner is going to help me with at all. So I need to kind of figure out how to grow that money myself. But I'm going to the bank, and the bank is just going to stick it in a less than 1% yielding account.
Yeah.
But maybe they're offering CDs that are 7 months, 11 months, 18 months, whatever. What are those best options? Or is it a money market account? I went to the bank one day and I was like, I have all this money sitting in this account getting 0.1%. And all of a sudden I noticed they have a money market account that's offering 4%. This is a great account. There's no risk whatsoever to that money, right? Unlike at least with the stock market, there is a risk that it could go down, although in the long term it will go up.
Mm-hmm.
But in a bank, in a CD or a money market account, there's no risk.
You never want to say no risk, because low risk. Yeah, pretty low risk. Yeah, I think if we're talking about reserves, emergency reserves, and just surplus cash that you have that you can't invest for the long term because you need that reserve, then the best course of action is, yes, have your money in a bank account, or better yet, in some kind of a money market account that'll get the higher yields today. Okay. But there does come a point where you got to think about, well, how does the bank make money? Well, here's what the bank does. Okay. The bank takes your money and they'll pay you 4%. Or they'll pay you, let's say they pay you 4% today. Well, the bank is taking your money. The second you make that deposit, they're taking that money and they're buying U.S. Treasuries and they're making 5.5%. And they're giving you 4%, and they're keeping 1.5%. So my suggestion is cut out the middleman and just buy U.S. Treasuries direct. You could do that. You can do that within a bank, like Bank of America has Merrill Direct or whatever. But you could do that at Schwab or Fidelity or even Vanguard. Possibly at Wells Fargo and others. But the other bit of advice to freelancers would be, look, your income is so variable. Consider just identifying a certain percentage of your income, whatever it is for the month or the year, and that percentage is what you sock away. So if it's a really good month and it's 10 grand, well then that month, let's say 10% of your money, just discipline yourself to invest $1,000 of that. And if it's, $5,000, well then that month it's only $500. So you might want to consider a percentage of income during good times and bad. And obviously during good times, ideally you can do more, but never do less than a certain percentage amount. A good 10%, keep that one in mind. 10% really works. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. The way U.S. Treasury bonds work is you set the maturity, so you get to select, I want a 1-year bond that matures in a year, or I want a 3-month bond that matures in 3 months. Okay? Keep in mind that U.S. Treasuries right now and historically have been the most liquid market on the planet. Okay? If God forbid you have to break into your treasury bond because an emergency or an unexpected opportunity emerged, you can break into your U.S. Treasury bond. And generally speaking, if the maturity is less than about a year, so if you're buying the shorter term stuff, there's no volatility. So you may not have all of your principal back if you break into it early. Yeah. Yes. How many clicks? Like, it takes me the same amount of clicks. It depends on your experience level and comfort level with an online site. Okay. And if you need some hand holding, you can always call the Vanguard hotline or Schwab, and they'll walk you through the first one. But it is fairly, I think it's fairly seamless. But that said, it can get intimidating for some. Right now, it's kind of a screaming opportunity. It's amazing that the short-term bonds they're tantalizing for a reason. The government wants you to buy the short-term bonds. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely not. It's never too late. You could be 75 years old and you can contribute to retirement accounts. So no, it's never too late. And certainly, I showed you charts where it's amazing if you get started early, but look, we can't turn back the clock. So the best time to get started, regardless of your age, is right now. Yep. Yep. Okay.
What amount of money should you have in your retirement, and what is the recommended amount of money you should have in your retirement? I say it's scary because it's a significant amount of money these days.
Yeah.
But what is it going to be 30 years from now?
Yeah. So, look, I can't give you a specific number because it just depends on your lifestyle. Okay, it totally depends on your lifestyle. But I can tell you this much. Whatever you want to spend every year, okay, multiply that by 20. Okay, so if you want to spend 100 grand a year, because that's how much it costs to live in LA, you got to have $2 million. So multiply by 20. But look, the number could be a lot, may need to be a lot higher or lower. The more the better is my point. But don't be intimidated if $2 million, if you're starting from scratch, that's a lot of money. The key is just get started. Just get on that train to wealth building, and you'll eventually get there. Yeah.
The question was, do you have any thoughts on when the next bubble is coming?
The next bubble. So, look, where or what? Yeah. What time? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe real estate in the San Fernando Valley in 2024, Q4. Now, just look at look at the asset categories today that have appreciated the most, and you'll have a good number of candidates there. So what are those assets that have appreciated the most recently? Someone talked about crypto. Okay, that's a candidate. There's a lot of enthusiasm around AI stocks. So, there are a lot of companies that have where the stock price has gone up immensely. Well, maybe that's unsustainable. So that could be a bubble. Those are two examples. What's that? Yeah, you got it. You got it. Yeah, credit card bubble, commercial real estate. I mean, it's happening. I mean, but when you think about commercial real estate, it's such a broad. You have everything from warehouses to retail to office, multifamily apartments, industrial, whatever. It's pretty bleak times right now in the office space, and so well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, loans related to, if you're a bank or a lender that specifically focused on high-rise office buildings in subpar markets, tough times. And in fact, some of those have already gone away. Last year, if you recall, last March or April, there were a number of small regional banks that went under. And in fact, what was it? Silicon Valley Bank went under, and a few others. First Republic was taken over. And so they had a lot of exposure to some of these assets. But we may not see this bubble that impacts the entire economy. Because there are certain pockets that are of the economy that are just doing great, and there are others that are very weak. And so the hope is that whatever bubble might burst doesn't impact everything. But there's no crystal ball, so I don't really know. Yeah, we're done now. I know. My take on crypto investing, I don't put it in the same bucket as predictable, reliable, high-quality investing. So I think in our interactions with clients, number one, let's address what the goals are. What are your goals? What are your objectives? Are you on track to hitting that $2 million target or the $10 million target, whatever that is? Well, let's make sure that plan is as predictable as possible. Once we've checked that box, I don't care what you do with the rest of your money. You could speculate all you want. And right now, crypto investing, there's just a lot of uncertainty because it's still relatively new, and investments that go up 100% in a 3-month period can go down 70% in a 3-month period, as it has. And so we generally don't touch it for that reason. Also, with respect to our clients have their accounts at Charles Schwab, and Charles Schwab hasn't yet gotten in the game of crypto, so it's not really something we touch. But we have clients that want to dabble in it or want to put real money behind it, so they go to other institutions. And look, I'm okay with it, just as I'm okay with people giving their money away or people buying other types of securities, as long as you're on track to meeting your objectives and there's a clear plan for that. You could speculate all you want on this site and take some chances, swing for the fences. That's it. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Only invest it with crypto and speculative assets. Only invest the money that you could lose, and nothing really happens to you. Yeah.
With that, I want to thank everybody who came out in person, everybody watching on the live stream, and a big thank you to Jose Tella. We're going to stick around for a little bit before we about the next panel that we're having.
Sounds good.